Ever feel like you're just drowning in information these days? I mean, it's like everywhere you look, data is just pouring in from every direction.
It can definitely be overwhelming.
Yeah. Well, today we're diving into the deep end of big data,
Mm,
trying to make sense of the basics in, like 8 minutes.
sounds like a challenge.
It is. But luckily, we have this ebook to guide us,
Mhm.
sort of like a roadmap for this data jungle.
Exactly. Big data can seem intimidating, but we're going to break it down into digestible pieces.
So no need for a life preserver on this dive.
Right. At its core, big data is really just referring to these incredibly large and complex data sets, like the kind that traditional tools just weren't built to handle.
So not your average spreadsheet then.
No, not at all.
This is where those famous three V's come in, right?
Right.
Volume, velocity, and variety.
You got it.
Gartner came up with those back in 2001, and it's amazing how relevant they still are today. It's almost like they were predicting the future of data.
Absolutely. Those three V's perfectly capture the essence of big data.
So let's start with volume. What exactly are we talking about here?
Well, volume refers to the sheer scale of these data sets. We're talking terabytes, even petabytes of data generated from all sorts of sources. Social media sensor networks, online transactions, you name it.
So it's not just about the amount of data, but also the types of data, right? It's not just neat rows and columns in a database anymore.
Exactly. Big data often comes from unstructured sources, which makes it even more challenging to analyze.
Okay, so we've got these mountains of data piling up, and then there's velocity, which is all about the speed at which it's coming in.
Right. It's like trying to drink from a fire hose. Imagine trying to analyze a constant stream of data from millions of devices in real time.
That sounds intense.
It is. You need specialized tools and techniques that can keep up with this constant influx of information.
So how do you even begin to make sense of it all? That's where variety comes in, I guess.
Precisely. Big data comes in all shapes and sizes. We're talking text, images, audio, video. It's like trying to solve a giant digital jigsaw puzzle.
And each piece requires a different approach to make sense of it, right?
Exactly. We need specialized tools to extract insights from such diverse data sets.
So we've got the three V's, volume, velocity, and variety. But I've also heard about two newer V's, value and veracity. Are those important too?
Absolutely. The ebook doesn't explicitly mention them, but they're crucial additions to understanding the big data landscape.
Okay, let's talk about value first. I'm guessing that's all about making sure the data is actually useful.
You got it. Value reminds us that big data is only as good as the insights we can extract from it. It's about turning raw data into actionable knowledge. Data for data's sake is just noise.
Makes sense. Just because you have a ton of data doesn't mean it's automatically valuable. And what about veracity? Is that making sure the data is accurate and reliable?
That's a big part of it. Veracity refers to the trustworthiness of the data. In a world with so much misinformation and fake news, we have to be really careful about the data we use to make decisions.
So it's not just about having data. It's about having the right data and knowing how to use it responsibly.
Exactly. It's about asking the right questions, considering the source, and being aware of potential biases.
So these five V's give us a framework for understanding what makes big data unique. But how did we even get here? I mean, the ebook mentions a turning point around 2005. What happened then?
Well, that's when user-generated content really took off. Think platforms like Facebook and YouTube. Suddenly, we had unprecedented amounts of data being created every minute. And the old ways of managing and analyzing data just couldn't keep up.
It must have felt like a data tsunami hitting the shores of the tech world. So how did we adapt to this explosion of information?
It required a whole new set of tools and technologies. Think Hadoop, a framework specifically designed for storing and processing massive data sets, and NoSQL databases, which are much more flexible than traditional relational databases.
So Hadoop and NoSQL were like the superheroes who swooped in to save the day.
You could say that. They made big data management much more feasible and paved the way for new possibilities in analysis.
But it didn't stop there, right? Now we've got the Internet of Things adding fuel to the fire. It's not just people generating data anymore. It's our devices, too.
Exactly. With the Internet of Things, everyday objects like cars, refrigerators, even our thermostats are generating data.
It's like the whole world is becoming a data sensor. And all that data is creating even more opportunities for analysis and innovation.
It really is. The possibilities are pretty much endless.
And let's not forget about machine learning. I mean, it seems like it plays a huge role in both generating and analyzing big data.
Absolutely. Machine learning algorithms thrive on data. The more data they have, the better they perform. So big data is actually fueling the advancements in machine learning, which in turn generates even more data.
It's like a fascinating feedback loop.
It is.
So we've established that big data is massive, complex, constantly evolving, and intertwined with all sorts of other technologies. But the big question is, what can we actually do with it? What's the point of all this data?
That's a great question, and the core of why big data is so important. It's about extracting meaningful insights to solve real-world problems and drive innovation. But to delve into those applications,
We'll have to save that for part two. Okay, so we've established that big data is, massive, complex, constantly evolving. But the real question is, what's the point? Why should we even care about all this data?
well, the ebook emphasizes two major benefits of big data: more complete answers and greater confidence in decision-making.
Okay, I can see that.
When you have access to such a vast and varied pool of information, you can uncover insights that were previously hidden.
That makes sense. It's like having a much wider lens to view the world through, right?
Yeah.
But how does that actually translate into real-world applications? Can you give me some examples?
Sure, let's take product development, for instance.
Okay.
Companies like Netflix and Procter & Gamble, they use big data to understand consumer preferences at a very granular level.
Ah.
This allows them to tailor their offerings and even anticipate customer needs before they even arise.
So it's like they're reading our minds. I mean,
Yeah.
I've definitely had those moments where Netflix recommends a show and I'm like, how do they know I'd love this?
Exactly. That's big data in action. And P&G, they use data from focus groups, social media, even early product trials to optimize their offerings. It's
Yeah.
not just guesswork anymore, it's data-driven decision-making.
That's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
The ebook also mentions this thing called predictive maintenance, which honestly sounds kind of like something straight out of a sci-fi movie.
It might sound futuristic, but it's becoming increasingly common. By analyzing data from sensors and other sources, companies can actually identify patterns that indicate when a machine is likely to fail.
Oh.
And this allows them to address those potential issues before they cause any costly downtime.
So it's like having a crystal ball for your equipment. That's a total game changer for industries that rely on, heavy machinery and stuff.
Absolutely. And then there's the whole customer experience angle.
Right.
Big data is completely revolutionizing how companies interact with their customers.
Yeah, I've definitely noticed that. Sometimes it feels like companies know me better than I know myself. I mean, they send me these personalized offers and recommendations that are often spot on. It's a little creepy sometimes, but also kind of cool.
Well, that's the power of big data-driven personalization. Companies can use data to tailor their marketing messages, provide customized support, even anticipate customer needs before they're expressed.
It's all about creating that seamless and enjoyable experience for the customer, right? But with all this data being collected and analyzed, we have to talk about security.
You're absolutely right. Security is paramount.
Yeah.
And that's where big data plays a crucial role in fraud detection. By analyzing patterns and anomalies in real time, companies can identify potentially fraudulent activities and take steps to prevent them.
So it's like having this digital detective on the case, constantly looking for suspicious behavior.
Exactly. And of course, we can't forget about machine learning. Having access to these massive data sets must be like a dream come true for those machine learning algorithms. It absolutely is. Machine learning thrives on data. The more data it has, the better it performs. So the abundance of big data has fueled incredible advancements in areas like natural language processing, image recognition, and predictive modeling.
It's mind-blowing how all these things are connected.